Today we'll discuss about the ophthalmic preparations. This lecture will be covered in two parts, part 1 and part 2. So coming to what is ophthalmic preparations. As the name implies, ophthalmic means that the products or the dosage forms which are being applied in the conjunctiva or the conjunctival sac, mean to say that in your eyes. This is when you are preparing the ophthalmic products, you have to take care a lot, because as you know that any preparation or any medicament which is coming into the direct contact of any organ of the body, it should be safe. It should not create some problem, like that it should be compatible with that particular part of your body. It should be means that it should be of up to the mark, good quality, and acceptable by the body. If there are some changes in that condition, like in the cases of the ophthalmic preparations, it should be sterilized. Sterilized means it should be free from the microorganisms. If it is not like that, in that condition, that may damage your eyes. You can there may be the loss of the vision. There may be any sort of problem in your eyes. So before means that proceeding for this part, that you should be well aware of the various parameters and the various factors which plays a very important role for the preparation of the ophthalmic products. When we are talking about the ophthalmic products, generally it implies to the eye drops, eye ointments, suspensions are also there, solutions are also there, emulsions are also there. These are the various categories which can be used as the ophthalmic preparations. So coming to this ophthalmic preparations, we can define that these are the specialized dosage form designed to be instilled onto the external surface of the eye, topical, administered inside intraocular or the adjacent periocular or to the eye, or used in conjunction with an ophthalmic device. The most commonly employed ophthalmic dosage forms are solutions, suspensions, and the ointments. The newest dosage forms for ophthalmic drug delivery are gels, gel forming solutions, ocular inserts, intravitreal injections, and implants. The various drugs, generally the various categories of the drugs which can be used for the administered in the eye, like myotic drugs like pilocarpine hydrochloride, mydriatics, atropine, cycloplegic drugs, anti-inflammatories like various corticosteroids are there, anti-infective agents, anti-glaucoma drugs like pilocarpine hydrochloride, adjuncts, irrigating solutions like that, diagnostic drugs, sodium fluorescein, anesthetics, tetracaine. Like these are the various categories which can be used for the for installation into the eyes. We are coming to the little bit means that what is anatomy and the physiology of the eye. That you can, as you can see, that this slide is showing that the figure of the eye and the various parts of that eye. Sclera is there, iris, cornea, pupil, lens, conjunctiva, vitreous chamber, choroid, optic nerves, macula, and the retina. But the sclera, it is the protective outer layer of the eye, referred to as the white of the eye or white part of the eye, and it maintains the shape of the eye. The corona, you are all aware of that, the front portion of the sclera, which is transparent and allows light to enter the eye. The cornea is a powerful refracting surface, providing much of the eye's focusing power. The choroids is the second layer of the eye and lies between the sclera and the retina. It contains the blood vessels that provide nourishment to the outer layer of the retina. The iris is the part of the eye that gives it color. It consists of muscular tissues that responds to surrounding light, making the pupil opening in the center of the iris larger or smaller depending on the brightness of the light. As you can see in this picture, that the lens is a transparent biconvex structure encased in a thin transparent covering. The function of the lens is to refract and focus incoming light onto the retina. The retina is the innermost layer in the eye. which converts images into electrical impulses that are sent along the optic nerve to the brain where the images are interpreted. The macula is located in the back of the eye, in the center of the retina. This area produces the sharpest vision. The inside of the eyeball is divided by the lens into two fluid-filled sections. The larger section at the back of the eye is filled with a colorless gelatinous mass called the vitreous humor. The smaller section in the front contains a clear water-like material called aqueous humor. The conjunctiva is a mucous membrane that begins at the edge of the cornea and lines the inside surface of the eyelids and sclera, which serves to lubricate the eye. Now, absorption of drug in the eye, how does it take place? The various factors affecting the drug availability. The rapid solution drainage by the gravity, induced lacrimation, blinking reflex, and normal tear turnover. The normal volume of tears 7 microliter. The blinking eye can accommodate a volume of up to 30 microliter. Without spillage, the drop volume is around 50 microliter. Here this slide is showing that lacrimal nasal drainage, how it goes inside your eye. Now in the lower or the low corneal permeability, which acts as a lipid barrier, the transportation of the hydrophilic and the macromolecular drugs occurs through the scleral route. The lipophilic agents of lower molecular weight follow transcorneal transport by passive diffusion and obey the fixed first law of diffusion, which is mentioned here as J is equal to minus d dot d Cm upon dx, where the J is the flux rate across the membrane, d is the diffusion coefficient. The diffusion coefficient increases as the molecular size of the drug reduces, and the same concentration gradient. As the drug solubility increases, the gradient increases, and the driving force for drug entry into the aqueous humor increases. The slide is showing that how the corneal absorption takes place when the drug delivery in ocular therapeutics is a challenging problem. If the drug has poor bioavailability, in that condition that the protective mechanism takes place and the blinking, reflexing lacrimation, nasolacrimal drainage, and the anatomy of the eye, that is barrier properties of the cornea. Here you can see that this is all correlated with that. The sterility, various safety consideration which we have to keep in mind while manufacturing the ophthalmic products. The sterility, or if we are talking about the parenterals, not only the ophthalmics, when we are talking about the parenterals, whether it is a small volume or large volume parenterals or the ophthalmic preparations, sterility is the very vital factor which is to be considered. And as you know that sterility test is specified for the various drugs, how it can be performed. So you have to perform this sterility test strictly, and that your finished product must pass this test. Otherwise, if it is not passing, or if it is coming at the borderline, in that condition there may be the chances that your shelf life of the product, before completion of that one, your product may be contaminated, may be affected, may get development of the microbial growths. So the sterility is, it is the ideally all ophthalmic products would be terminally sterilized in the final packaging. Mean to say that if the drug which is thermolabile, and if we are giving the heating treatment at a higher temperature, in that condition that the nature of that drug is not changing, so we can apply the terminal sterilization for these products. Only a few ophthalmic drugs formulated in simple aqueous vehicle are stable to normal autoclaving temperatures and the times. Generally the 121 degrees centigrade for 20 to 30 minutes being run for getting sterilization. Such heat resistant drugs may be packaged in glass or other heat deformation resistant packaging and thus can be sterilized in this manner. The most ophthalmic products, however, cannot be sterilized by heat due to the active principle or polymers used to increase viscosity. Those are not stable, they are not withstanding with the heat. In that condition, the other optional methods are to be followed, like filtration or like other methods are there. Most ophthalmic products are aseptically manufactured and filled into previously sterilized containers in aseptic environments using aseptic filling and capping techniques. Here you can see that methods of sterilization, sterile member filtration under aseptic conditions, but not suitable for suspension, as suspension may get retain the drug particles on that membrane. Sterilization by autoclaving in the final container, but it is not suitable for heat labile drugs and plastic containers. The gas as ethylene oxide or the ionizing radiation as gamma rays, we can go for that. This now coming to the ocular toxicity and the irritation. The albino rabbits are used to test the ocular toxicity and irritation of ophthalmic formulations. The procedure based on the examination of the conjunctiva, the cornea or the iris. For example, that USP procedure for plastic containers to be followed for that, and which is like that containers are cleaned and sterilized as in the final packaged product, extracted by submersion in saline and cottonseed oil. Topical ocular installation of the extract and blanks in rabbits is completed and ocular changes examined. As you know that preservation and the preservatives plays a very vital role in these parenteral preparation as well as in the ophthalmic preparations. The preservatives are included in multiple dosage solutions for maintaining the product sterility during use. Preservatives not included in the unit dosage packages. As you know that those packages are the preparations which are meant for unit dose or single use. It does not contain the preservatives, hence that products are hermetically sealed, and once it opens it is to be used. The use of the preservatives is prohibited in ophthalmic products that are used at the eye surgery, because if sufficient concentration of the preservative is contacted with the corneal endothelium, the cells can become damaged, causing clouding of the cornea and possible loss of the vision. So these products should be packaged in a sterile unit of use container. The most common organism which get generated is the Pseudomonas aeruginosa that grows in the cornea and cause loss of vision. The ophthalmic products may be packaged in multiple dose containers when intended for the individual use of one patient. As you can see in this slide that the first dose is given, which is sterile. If due to some problem, if it is not maintained intactness of that product, in that condition contamination may occur, and due to that other losses may cause infection or other doses may cause infection to the eye. When we add preservatives to prevent the growth or to destroy microorganisms accidentally introduced when the container is open during use, there may be the chances that you can see that once you are opening, like in the cases of example, you can see that the Itone eye drops is available in generally as a household medicine. It is considered as a household medicine. It is available in the most of the houses. So you have to keep a watch on that whenever you are using that, you should remember the date of opening of that container, and you should not use that after the 28 days time period, because if you are using after that, there may be the chances that that product may be contaminated and may give you the adverse effect. The examples of the preservatives, cationic wetting agents are there, benzalkonium chloride. Generally the concentration which is being used of this is 0.01%. It is generally used in the combination with 0.01 to 0.1% this disodium acetate tetraestic acid. This is a chelating agent, and this EDTA has the ability to render the resistance of P.S. aeruginosa more sensitive to benzalkonium chloride. The organic mercurials can also be used as a preservative. These are the phenyl mercuric nitrate in the concentration of the 0.002 to 0.004%, phenyl mercuric acetate 0.005 to 0.02%. The esters of the para-hydroxybenzoic acid, methyl parabens and the propyl parabens, it is generally used in the mixture of 0.1% of both methyl and the propyl hydroxybenzoate 2:1. Alcohol substitutes are also available, chlorobutanol 0.5%, effective only at pH 5 to 6. Apart from that, phenyl ethanol can also be used in the range of 0.5%. Now coming to the manufacturing considerations of ophthalmic preparations, that the environment should be sterile and the particle free through. which can be achieved by the use of the laminar flow, which should be used throughout the manufacturing area. The total particles per cubic foot of space should be minimum. Relative humidity controlled to between 40 and 60%. Walls, ceilings and the floors should be constructed of materials that are hard, non-flaking, smooth and non-affected by surface cleaners or the disinfectants. Here you can see the picture of that pharma industry, that the ultraviolet lamps can also be provided in flush mounted fixtures to maintain the surface disinfection. The separate entrance for personnel and equipment should be provided through specially designed airlocks that are maintained at negative pressure relative to the aseptic manufacturing area and at a positive pressure relative to the non-controlled area. Generally, this pressure is being maintained by use of the HEPA filters, which provides the adequate pressure in that aseptic area. Here you can see that the equipments which are being used for this preparation, ophthalmic preparations. The unpreserved formulations of active drugs, the generally preferred method is the blow fill seal method. The BFS method is generally used. In this method, we can use it for the manufacture of the unpreserved ophthalmic products, especially for artificial tear products. In this first step, you have to extrude polyethylene resin at high temperature and pressure. Means that granules are there provided to that feeder, and at a very high temperature and pressure, this will be passed and they will form the container by blowing the polyethylene resins into mold with compressed air. The product is vented out and finally the container is sealed on the top. Here you can see that this mold is there where this is blown, and after blowing of that it is being filled, and again that cap is introduced and you can see the picture of that blow fill seal, that product. All tanks, valves, pumps and the piping must be of best available grade of corrosion resistant in stainless steel. All products contact surface should be polished either mechanically or be electro-polishing to provide a surface as free as possible from scratches or the defects. The care should be taken in the design of such equipment to provide adequate means of cleaning and sanitization. The following characteristics are required to optimize ocular drug delivery systems: that it should be good corneal penetration have, it should be prolonged, provide the prolonged contact time with corneal tissues, it should provide the simplicity of installation for the patient, it should be non-irritative and comfortable and in the comfortable form, and it should appropriate rheological properties should have in that product. Now we can classify the various ocular drug delivery systems like this liquid, semi-solid, solid and the intraocular dosage forms like injections, irrigating solutions, implants. Under the liquid, that various topical eye drops in the form of the solution, suspensions, powders for reconstitution or the solutions to gel system. The semi-solid preparations are like ointments and the gels are there, and in the solid form that ocular inserts are there. The slide is showing the routes of ocular delivery, how that this topical can be administered, how this subconjunctival injection can be given in a specific part. Intravitreal injection can be given at the inner of the eye part. The subtenon, this injection at the almost near the nerves of that eye part, or you can say the back of the eye part. Now coming to the topical eye drops, first the solutions. Ophthalmic solutions are sterile solutions, essentially free from foreign particles, suitably compounded and packaged for installation into the eyes. This can be administered by the method which is very common and you might be aware of that, but for just mentioning it, I have taken that: pull down the eyelid, tilting the head backwards, look at the ceiling after the tip is pointed close to the lower cul-de-sac, apply a slight pressure to the rubber bulb or plastic bottle to allow a drop to fall into the eye. Do not squeeze lids, and to prevent the contamination, that you should have the clean hands and you should not touch the dropper tip of the eye. Nearly all the major ophthalmic therapeutic agents are water soluble salts. The selection of the appropriate salts depends on the solubility, ocular toxicity, the effect of the pH, tonicity and the buffer capacity, the intensity of any burning sensation. The most commonly used salts are hydrochloride, phosphates and the nitrates. For examples, some of the topical eye drop containing drug: atropine sulfate eye drop is there, pilocarpine, silver nitrate, zinc sulfate eye drops are there. Now coming to the aqueous ophthalmic solution, it can be manufactured by dissolution of the active ingredients and a portion of the excipients into all portion of water. The sterilization of this solution can be done by heat or by sterilizing filtration through a sterile depth or membrane filter media into a sterile receptacle. This sterile solution is then mixed with the additional requirement sterile components such as viscosity, imparting agents, preservatives and the solution is brought to the final volume with additional sterile water. The very short time the solution stays at the eye surface, hence the retention of a solution in the eye is influenced by viscosity. This is the disadvantage of the eye solutions. And another disadvantage of the eye solutions is that its poor bioavailability of that into that part. Coming to the suspensions, if the drug is not sufficiently soluble, in that condition you have the choice to make it available in the form of the suspension. It can be formulated as a suspension, and the suspension may also be desired to improve stability, bioavailability and the efficacy. The major topical ophthalmic suspensions are the steroid anti-inflammatory agents. An ophthalmic suspension should use the drug in a microfine form. Usually 95% or more of the particles have a diameter of 10 micrometer or the less. Examples of the various suspension which can be which are available: the prednisolone acetate suspension, basifloxacin suspension, blefemide suspension, fluoromethanol. Now coming to the aqueous suspensions, these are prepared in much the same manner, except that before bringing to the final volume with additional sterile water, the solid that is to be suspended in previously rendered sterile by heat exposure to ethylene oxide, ionizing radiation, gamma radiation, that is sterile filtration. The particle side should be monitored during the manufacturing of these. The third category is the gel forming solutions. These are the solutions that are liquid in the container and thus can be instilled as eye drops, but forms gel on contact with the tear fluid and provide increased contact time. This is the main advantage of the gel forming solutions. When you are instilling that drop of that product into the eyes, that will be developed, that generally instantly it will develop a film like that. So it will be converted into a gel and develop a film. So ultimately that is increasing the retention time or the contact time in that eye, with the possibility of improved drug absorption and the duration of the therapeutic effect. This liquid gel phase transition dependent delivery system depend according to the particular polymers employed into it and their mechanism for triggering the transition to a gel phase in the eye. You can take the advantage of the changes in the temperature, pH, ion sensitivity, isozyme upon contact with the tear fluid. Gel forming, that in situ forming gels are also available. You can see here that the temperature, in that particular temperature, that you can use the poloxamer and xyloglucan. The various ions, calcium ions, alginic acid, sodium alginate, galen gum can be used. The pH can be achieved by the cellular acetate phthalate, and the lysozyme protein in the tear fluid it can be achieved by using the xanthan gum. The different mucoadhesive polymers can be added to poloxamer, carbapol 940, hydroxypropyl methyl cellulose HPMC and the HEC. The inactive ingredients in the ophthalmic solutions and the suspension dosage forms are necessary to perform one or more of the following functions: adjust concentration and the tonicity, The buffer and adjust pH, stabilize the active ingredients against decomposition, increase solubility, impart viscosity, and act as a solvent. The tonicity and the tonicity adjusting agents are widely available. The pharmacist should adjust the tonicity of an ophthalmic correctly. Exert an osmotic pressure equal to that of the tear fluid, generally agreed to be equal to 0.9% sodium chloride solution. A range of 0.5 to 2% of sodium chloride equivalency does not cause a marked pain response, and a range of about 0.7 to 1.5% should be acceptable to the mostly by the persons. The commonly tonicity adjusting ingredients include sodium chloride, potassium chloride, buffer salts, dextrose, glycerin, propylene glycol, and the mannitol. The lacrimal fluid is the isotonic with blood having an isotonicity value corresponding to that of 0.9% sodium chloride solution. Ideally, an ophthalmic solution should have this isotonicity value, but the eye can tolerate isotonicity from 0.6% to 2% sodium chloride without marked discomfort. Some ophthalmic solutions are necessarily hypertonic in order to enhance absorption and provide a concentration of the active ingredient strong enough to exert an effective action. The next is the pH adjustment and the buffer. This is the very important as pH affects the ultimate product to render the formulation more stable. If you are achieving a desirable pH of that product, it will be more stable. The comfort, safety, and the activity of the product, eye irritation, which ultimately increases in tear fluid secretion, and there may be the rapid loss of medications. To enhance aqueous solubility of the drug, you can use the various buffering agents. By that, you can maintain the pH. And to enhance the drug bioavailability and to maximize the preservative efficacy. If you have pH stable for the whole stability period or shelf life period of that product, it will be a good product, and there will be the chances of there will be the very minimum chances of getting contaminated of that product during the storage period. Ideally, every product would be buffered to a pH of 7.4. The normal physiological pH of the tear fluid. When necessary, they are buffered adequately to maintain stability within this range for at least 2 years. If buffers are required, their capacity is controlled to be as low as possible, thus enabling the tear to bring the pH of the eye back to the physiological range. Normal tears have a pH of about 7.4 and possess some buffer capacity. So you can say that any formulation having different pH than 7.4 will be neutralized by normal buffer tears, but most alkaloidal salts precipitate as the free alkaloid at this pH, and many drugs are chemically unstable at this pH levels approaching to 7.4. So for this reason, the buffer system should be selected that is nearest to the physiological pH of the 7.4 and does not cause precipitation of the drug or its rapid deterioration. This is the basic reason for that, maintaining the isotonicity and the pH of that product. Now coming to the stabilizers and the antioxidants which are to be used. The stabilizers are ingredients added to a formula to decrease the rate of decomposition of the active ingredients. These are the principally, you can say that stabilizers, they are added to some ophthalmic solutions, primarily those containing epinephrine and other oxidizable drugs. The sodium bisulfite or metabisulfite are used in concentration up to 0.3% in epinephrine hydrochloride and bitartrate solutions. The several antioxidant systems have been developed, which consist of ascorbic acid and the acetylcysteine and sodium thiosulfate. Now coming to the surfactant, the order of the surfactant toxicity is increases. It is the minimum in the anionic surfactants, it is increasing in the cationic, and the maximum it is in the non-ionic surfactants. The several non-ionic surfactants which can be used in relatively low concentration to aid in dispensing steroids in suspension and to achieve or to improve solution clarity. Those principally used are the sorbitan ether esters of oleic acids. You can say that polysorbate are between 20 and 80. Apart from that, viscosity is a very important factor which is to be maintained in the products, and the agents, those which are imparting this providing this viscosity to that product are polyvinyl alcohol, methyl cellulose, hydroxypropyl methyl cellulose, hydroxyethyl cellulose, and the carbomers. These are the agents, viscosity imparting agents, are commonly used to increase the viscosity of the solution and suspensions. They increase the ocular contact time, means they are, if the viscosity of your product is little bit of acceptable, I mean to say that it is neither coming towards the solution and not it is going to the very thick, that one. So that ultimately results into the retention time of that eye drop into the eyes, and ultimately that will increases the amount of drug absorption in that particular area. They increases the ocular contact time, thereby decreasing the drainage rate, increase in the mucoadhesiveness, and increasing the bioavailability, which is the ultimate target of that product. The disadvantages are that these viscosity imparting agents produces blurring vision, as when dry, form a dry film on the eyelids, make filtration more difficult, and commercially viscous vehicles which are available are the PVA, polyvinyl alcohol, and HPMC, hydroxypropyl methyl cellulose. Now coming to the next category, that is vehicle. Ophthalmic drop using purifies water USP as the solvent. Purified water meeting USP standards may be obtained by distillation, deionization, or reverse osmosis. The oils have been used as vehicle for several topical eye drops, products that are extremely sensitive to moisture. When oils are used as vehicle in ophthalmic fluids, they must be of the highest purity. The eye drops have been packaged almost entirely in plastic dropper bottles. As far as we discuss about the packaging of these products, nowadays mainly the plastic droppers are being used, or you can say the plastic containers being used very widely. The main advantage of the drop trainers are that it is conveniently you can use by the patient or by the consumer. It decreases the contamination potential. It is lower weight, and of course it has very lower cost when you compare it with the glass containers. The plastic bottle and the dispensing tip is made of low density polyethylene LDPE resins, which provides the necessary flexibility and the inertness. The cap is made of the harder resin than the bottle. A special plastic ophthalmic package made of polypropylene is introduced. The bottle is filled, then sterilized by steam under pressure at 121 degrees centigrade, that is autoclaving, you can say. And the powders for reconstitution also use glass containers owing to their heat transfer characteristics, which are necessary during the freeze drying process. The glass bottles is made sterile by dry heat or steam autoclave sterilization. The amber glasses is used for the light resistance, as you know very well. So that's all about this ophthalmic part 1. The remaining part will cover in the part 2 of the ophthalmic preparations. Thank you.